Would you agree with me if I said that I believe tertiary institutions in Nigeria, Africa, and every black society should be hotbeds for steaming intellectual conversations that lead to practical solutions to the entirety of the problems that are very much present in these societies? Would you also agree with me if I said that in the absence of these kinds of conversations, what you'd have would be widespread mediocrity, stagnation, or worst case, retrogression? My name is Evan Suguchuku, and I'll be hosting a show titled or called University Debate. University Debate is a sequel to my book titled The Second Coming of Black People and Africa. University Debate will be divided into two important sections, and one of those sections we're dealing with today. The first section deals with the history of student unionism in Nigeria, the major actors, the roles they played, sacrifices they made. In fact, some persons lost their life. And so we'd like to highlight some of these individuals and give them their props. But our spotlight would be majorly at the University of Jos. They played a rather important and pivotal role in the establishment of the student body in Nigeria. So we'll stick to that. The other part of the debate would be featuring university students and their lecturers to discuss and to debate germane issues like development economics, politics, history, research, agriculture, technology, to mention a few. And like I said earlier on, the idea is to have stimulating conversations that matter to us in Nigeria and every black society. The conversations will not end in studios or in places like this. The conversations are a prelude to the most important part of having conversations. They will lead to practical solutions that would also translate to problem solving. And with that, I have with me today a current student union leader, someone who is currently making sacrifices to benefit the students at the University of Jos. I'll let him do the honors by introducing himself. Can we meet you, sir?
Thank you. Uh, Good afternoon, viewers. Good afternoon, listeners. I'm Right Honorable Fongshak Tankat Daladi from the prestigious University of Jos, a final year student of Building Department, Faculty of Environmental Sciences. I was the former speaker of the Jos University Environmental Science Students Association, more also one time the press secretary to the National Association of Building Students in our office, that is a national body, more also one time the senator representing the good people of the Faculty of Environmental Sciences at the Student Union government. Also one time the publicity secretary of the Artisans and Craftsmen Management Empowerment Association, ASEMA. Currently the financial secretary of the Artisans and Craftsmen Empowerment Management Association, ASEMA. More also, I was the Secretary General of the Mopun Student Association. That is one of the least tribal tribes in Plateau State, University of Jos chapter. Thank you, sir.
It's nice to have you here. Interesting portfolio you have. I think before I go to the conversation proper, it's important I tell people how beautiful Plateau State is. And in recent times, we've been hearing very funny stories about the place, insecurity and chaos. That should not dissuade you from trying to visit the place. I'm also new here, but it has been an awesome time since I've been here. Based off that, I think we can get to the conversation proper. So I would ask you a series of questions, but before I get into that, I think it's important I tell the viewers a bit of a story and my guests as well. In the year 1925, a very interesting individual founded one of the first student union bodies in the UK. So he did that while he was studying there, and the idea was not far-fetched. So he looked around and saw that the interest of black and African students were not properly represented. So he founded the West African Student Union. I'm not sure if I mentioned his name, by the way. His name is Ladipo Shulanke. So Ladipo Shulanke founded WASU in 1925, and the idea was quite simple. have an umbrella body that would protect the interest of West African students. But it did not stop there. WASU eventually metamorphosed to become the unofficial intelligentsia arm of the NYM. NYM produced individuals like H.O. Davis, individuals like Ernest Koli. And but the beauty about all that was that NYM, of course, in collaboration with WASU, eventually ousted Herbert Macaulay's NNDP in 1938 during the Lagos Legislative Council election. So the point I'm trying to make with that story is the fact that there was a time student union bodies were very deliberate about their image, and they didn't see themselves as just bodies to make noise, but they did in fact build genuine influence, and they used that influence to make and create some type of good in Nigeria. So my question really would be that do you think that the way student union bodies are currently constituted, that they can even influence the policies of a local government as we speak currently? You can be very honest. I know you would want to speak to protect yourself, and given the fact that you're currently a student union person, but do you really think that as the way it's currently constituted, that student union bodies, whether in Jos or any part of the country, can in any way at all influence the policies of a local government?
All right. Thank you, Mr. Evans. I think it's a very portable and very nice question. Nice having you. Actually, currently in our nowadays unionism per se, we say things has changed, and because of the persistent changes, the students of nowadays don't have the courage to do what our olden people like the Solanke, Joseph Bawake, the late Joseph Bawake, the former Ghanaian politician, though he's late, but these were people who did the most outstanding things to bring the unity of the African students in the UK as of that time. Because of their courage during that time, that time it was a golden era, and in our time now is a commercial era. So the comparison in our time now, you notice that if the students want to say out something, because if they want to stand in for their rights, you notice that the number of students that will come out for that thing is very very is very very small or very very skinny. Meanwhile, if you look at those days, once they talk about to protest or to do anything, you see that they will come out in mass. What brings the influence? The issue of social media. Social media is one of the things that it has caused those things. For example, if you want to, those days they use magazine before you print your other things like
Fair
that.
enough, yeah, fair enough, yeah.
So, but nowadays, if you are doing something here, before you know, actually before you yourself it has already gone viral through the social media. So students feel like there is no need to be coming out to protest or to say to stand against whatever it is. Neither they will just go through out on the various social medias to say the kind of things they want to say. But the comparison of the olden days union is I would say.
If I get you correctly, you're saying that you think social media in some ways has affected the ability for students to mass mobilize, right? In the past, they didn't have social media, so they could take to the streets to state whatever disagreements or grievances they had towards the government or any other body, right?
Yes.
So what would you think would be the appropriate way forward? Because at the end of the day, I still believe, this is me personally now, right? I believe that social media also has a lot of benefits, right? The ability for messages to travel faster. It has never been this way before, and social media has made that possible. So we cannot do away with social media; it's impossible. So what would you, in your own opinion now, right? Considering the fact that it has its advantages, but it also has its advantages. So what would be the best way to combine the benefits, right? And to also ensure that instead of relying strictly on social media, people would take to the streets to talk about their grievances or any issues they might have with either the school management or the nation in general. what would be the best approach in your own opinion?
All right. I would like to add something again. Um, when you're talking about the social media,
Okay.
that was just a particular point, right?
Right.
But we have some other instrument that is causing all these things.
Okay.
The decline in the what in the student unionism of
Mhm.
nowadays.
Okay.
One of the political instruments. Most of these top politicians, they have involved themselves in the student union government. Meanwhile, it is expected that the student union government it is an independent body, lead, led by the students alone. And when we have that, you can see that you will agree with me that the students will stand in for whatever thing they feel like to stand
Yeah,
for their right.
I agree.
But by the time that politicians are involved, definitely money will be involved because you cannot do stuff with politician without money because he would like to influence you with money. So by the time he is giving you money, you will notice that you don't have the courage again because already what your mind is set for, the politicians are already convinced you
To do something else.
to do something else. Meanwhile, you are forgetting the fundamental thing that have taken you there is to stand in for the students. But by the time that these politicians are involved, they are giving them some stiffens, and we Nigerians we love money. Before you know, because a person like me, I feel betrayed because of money in the student union. Even when I was contesting for the office of speakership at the faculty level, I was betrayed because of the issue of money. Somebody was looking with money to betray me, and it would even shock you. It was my close friend. So to tell you how money goes very, very far. So the involvement of politicians in the student union has now disrupted most of the things. To answer your question in regard to the social media, well, the social media is not a bad thing. It's a very, very good medium, to transport information very, very fast because the moment you're pressing your button, somebody has already snapped it, and before you know it, it has already gone viral. All the world has already seen it. I would say the disadvantage of the social media is, our politicians, if they are going through the social media, if you want to pierce them into their heart, you want to pass a thorough information into their heart, is when you confront them physically. But by the time you are posting them on media, they will just flip it, and nothing will happen. Had it been during those days when the Solanke Ladipo, the Joseph Bowake, had it been they go through social media, they could have not have the advantage they have during that time. You will interested to know that during the Ladipo, they were fighting for their right because white man and black man, there is kind of treatment, colonialism, and other things like that. So they feel so separated, and these guys they have to stand in for their cause and confront it physically. I mean, they go through the social media, they could have done the right.
I hear you, and I agree wholeheartedly with what you're saying. So, but before we go deeper into the conversation, I think it's also important that you've introduced yourself clearly, but I would also like to know what were your inspiration to want to run for office as an individual. A lot of persons would say different things to different audiences, but I would like to have your genuine, honest take as to what inspired you to run for office. What was the chief or primary motivation to run for office? Was it strictly for service or there were other motivations? And I would like for you to be very honest. Very, very honest, please.
All right, thank you, Mr. Evans. Is a very, very outstanding question, and actually, what inspired me to contest or to lead students, I love being a servant to the masses. Like I love to serve the people. You will interested to know that since I was a kid, like I was a small boy, as of then, I was a leader. During my primary school, I was I would say a library prefect, whereby a lot of students will come and I will teach them, I will show them this is it, this is it. And because of that, that inspired me. By the time I'm leading them, I'm serving them, there is this kind of motivation, there is this kind of happiness I always feel within myself. Coming to secondary school, I had three positions at the same spot. I was the head boy at that time. I was the president of the Fellowship of Christian Students. Thank you very much. I was also the president of my tribal house at that in that particular year. So most of the things is that I just feel happy serving the masses. When I came to the university, my first year, that is 100 level. Somebody saw me, one of the senior comrades. He saw me. He said, "This guy is having a potential. Let's groom him." And it's just like he knew what was in my mind. When I came, the first thing that I asked is that, do we have anything that deal with students? And they told me that yes, we have the student union government, we have the faculty associations and different associations. Before I knew, I contested for the position of the senator at the ACG level, and I won drastically.
Awesome.
I later 200 level still contested for the senator, and I won again. 300 level contested for the office of the speakership, and I won. So I just love serving the people, and whenever they give me the mandate to serve them, I give out my best. I can categorically tell you I give out my best to the masses. Thank you.
Great. I'm also inspired by your story, by the way, and it in some ways reminds me of myself and the desire to want to serve. So I'll take it back away from you and go back to the primary reason why we're here. So I'm sure you're familiar with NANS, the overall student body that is supposed to, at least on paper, handle the affairs and welfare of students across Nigeria.
Sure.
Over the years, people would say that NANS has been somewhat bastardized, and people are not sure whether their true loyalty lies with protecting the interests of students. But I would like us to go a little bit back in time and talk about NANS as a body. Some persons posit that the University of Jos was very, very pivotal in the formation of NANS, because NANS was formerly NONS, then it metamorphosed and became NANS. And for that to happen, there were very eminent persons that made that push, and they came from the University of Jos. Can you shed more light on this assertion, the role that the University of Jos played in the formation of NANS?
All right. Thank you, Mr. Evans. University of Jos has brought out a lot of political leaders who have succeeded in politics, and it started from the student union government, leading to NANS. It will be interested to know that when the General Babangida nullified, as at that time, it was Nigerian Union, the National Union of Nigerian Students, right? And when General Babangida suspended that union in the year 1978, so as of that time, there was nothing like the National Association of Nigerian Students. Every institution was operating on its own. But in due course, as time goes in, we will say it's very, very bad. Because if you want to have a say, who will be your vocal? Who will be the person that will lead it, that will say it? I don't know whether you are getting it. I do. So if you look at it very, very well, University of Jos, as of that time, before the inception of the NAMS in 1980s, when Comrade Ola DJ was the how will I put it, the chairman, because there was no formal election, since it was just a little inception of the NAMS, because they were just trying to gather the union from the various institutions.
So he was like an interim
president as of that time. That is 1980. So one of the senior comrades from the University of Jos, in which he is the person of Comrade Blues, Comrade Sunday Aladi, he became the NANS president in 1983. That is after the interim president, then Comrade somebody from Ibadan. I forgot his name though, but there was a comrade from Ibadan who emerged as the elected president in 1982. Coming to 1983, a comrade from the University of Jos emerged as the president of the National Association of Nigerian Students. So from that space, after the 2 years of the interim government, you can see that the institution has been playing a very, very key role. Coming to 1991, the institution hosted the overall convention of the National Association of the Nigerian Students in the University of Jos. And for you to lobby the convention of NANS, you have to know your way in.
True,
Like you have to have more of connections. I don't know whether you're getting in, Mr. Evans. To tell you how University of Jos has been going very, very far. They have been succeeding politically. It will even interest you to know that in 1983, at that the same year, University of Jos was the first institution to provide a female student union president. Then it was 1983 in person of
Is that NOB or something?
Yes, NOB, comrade NOB. That is 1983. To tell you how University just have been going very, very well. It doesn't stop from that place. Coming again, just of recent, it interesting to know in this year, that is 2025, around February, we also have the next president that is coming from the same institution. We have various leaders who have been ruling, controlling, and giving out now the best activities needed to be. And because of the University of Jos, now has the federal government has recognized now as one of the best associations that the Nigerian government cannot do without the NANS body.
Okay. I find it a little bit contradicting, but before we get into that, I say I find it to be contradicting because a while back you mentioned that it seems as though student union bodies have lost that bite that the previous ones used to have for a myriad of reasons. We'll get back into that. But again, because I like telling stories, so I will just take a bit of story here and there. So I like telling stories. So
Yes,
I would like to tell this story as well. So when you're looking at the history books, right, there seems to be some type of stratification. Oftentimes, academic historians would that place focus on the history of student unionism. We place the 70s, 80s, and 90s as I think you mentioned that as well, the golden era of student unionism in Nigeria. And the reason why they gave them that was not perfect again. You could tell then that unionism, or specifically student unionism in Nigeria, was in every way possible hovered around specific things. Like there was a very clear ideology. Their approach towards unionism was in some ways confrontational, like you also mentioned. And some persons even then would brag that unionism was very much militant in its approach. And they mirrored individuals like the late Pa Michael Imodu, who was one of the foremost unionists in Nigeria. So it makes sense for them to put them under that category. You could see that they walked the talk. Then from the early 2000s till this very moment, student unionism has been put under the box of being commercialized. Again, I think you alluded to this earlier on. So, and the reason why they would say it that way or put them in that box is because a lot of times you would see student union bodies being appendages of the office of the vice chancellor, and whatever it is that he wants to happen, that's what the leaders like yourself, I'm not saying you as a person, I'm just saying other people, would be the voice of the vice chancellor. Sometimes even worse than that, you would find student union bodies being appendages of local, state, and even federal governments. So it goes back to your statement about NANS, which I said I find it to be contradictory. As we speak, a lot of persons refer to NANS as a mediocre institution. It doesn't have any clear-cut ideology, nothing that it stands for. And whatever it is, the federal or state government parrots, that's the same thing the body also parrots. So I'm a bit of in a fix of some sort, because I do not see how NANS, maybe in the past, like you said, it was a very influential and also motivating institution. Currently, there's nothing inspiring about NANS. I'll be very honest with you. So beyond NANS rather, individual or varied student union bodies are also nothing to write home about. So in your opinion, what do you think would be able to bring student union bodies back to their glory days, where there were clear-cut ideologies, and when a student union leader speaks, you know there's something he or she stands for? And beyond the student environment, student union leaders were beacon of hope. I mean, after the 1993 elections were annulled, student union leaders across Nigeria were at the forefront of the struggle against the fact that the military government annulled the election. And in fact, the past INEC commissioner in, I think, Akwa Ibom State, Mike Igin, I'm not sure if I got the name correctly, was in fact a student union leader. And the famous Shore as well was a student union leader. And these guys were at the forefront. Irrespective of the fact that their lives were at risk, there was something they stood for. So my question, to be more direct, would be, what do you think would be the singular most important ingredient or thing that has to be in place to turn student union bodies and NANS in specific back to its glory days? What do you think needs to be put in place to ensure that you can go back to a place where you'll be proud to speak about student union leaders and what they stand for?
Thank you. What I will say is just I will say I'm repeating myself again, but let the politicians allow the students to be. Let the student union government be independent. Just like you said, way the vice chancellors and other lecturers has become part of, have been influencing the students, have been disrupting the union. All these people, all these category of people, they should allow the student union to exist on their own. Let just should be independent. Though as of that time, during the time of their Shawore, as you were talking about, and our current time, you will notice that, but all those things, it has advantage and disadvantage.
What would be disadvantage?
All right, in those days, you are coming out to protest.
Okay.
As you are coming out to protest, do you know or are you aware that there might be or there is going to be property destructions? I don't know.
I hear you. I hear you.
Very good. And do you know, at the process of the protest, do you know there might be shifts in calendar of the academic session?
Agreed.
I don't know whether I get it. So
I'm
all these things, it has its advantages and disadvantages. But one of the welcome things that I want to recommend, that the NANS should go back to its former ways, powerful ways, that when it speaks, the government hear them, is that let the politicians allow the student union to rule themselves. They should not interfere in any matter. They should not involve themselves in any. They should not use money for their own selfish interest. Because most of these politicians, because since they notice that this NANS is being invited by most youths, is an enclosure of most youths. So they would like to use that medium for their own selfish interest. It's either to win election or to do other things in which they use money. So in order to bring NANS in back to its glory, they should allow the students to lead.
Thank you very much for your responses.
Thank you, Mr. Evans.
I can, again, at the previous answers you gave, I understand where you're coming from, and the questions, rather the answers, resonate with my own thinking as well. So I'll go on to my next question. It's something I've been battling with for a long period of time, and even though a lot of times people don't talk about it, but it's like the elephant in the room. But if we're going to have the honest conversation, it's important I touch on it.
Yes.
So it's as regards cultism and the influence that cultists have during election cycles, and how they influence the caliber of persons that get elected into student union offices or bodies. So was this a challenge for you? Did you in any way encounter these individuals, cultists or the body itself, approach you or make it difficult for you? What was your story really?
All right. Thank you, Mr. Evans. University of Jos is, I would say, is a son to University of Ibadan.
Okay.
I know from the history, University of Ibadan is having a lot of the rate of cultists in the University of Ibadan is very, very much that it cannot be compared to any institution in this particular country. So, just like father to son, all this kind of heredity. So, the history of University of Jos, like seriously, University of Jos was having much number of cultism, cultic and occultic groups whereby you feel threats and whatever. But truth to be told, during my election, because my opponent came out just 24 hours to the election, because at the point of time, the process of the election, I was unopposed. But yes, I was going unopposed. So, but because of the influence, they were saying, Comrade TK, this Comrade TK is coming. No, let us prove the government. Let us remove him out, because I was a returning senator. And you know what I did during my tenure as a senator, that is as a member in the parliament, because I was the outspoken senator in that year. If you are talking about vocabulary, you are talking about standing in for the right of the masses. That was who Comrade TK was as of that time. So a day, 24 hours to the election, that was when a particular set group of people now came in with the idea that let's manipulate and bring this guy an opponent, so that the presidents that they were going to institute it as that particular time, so that I should not come and suffer his government, because it's politics that we are talking about. Union is just like a politics that we're talking about, politics in the student era. And if you have a godfather, you will always like to do what your godfather told you to do. So most of them, what they believe at that time was that the president that they are going to put in place, that I should not come and suffer the government, because they know what TK can do, they know what I cannot do.
But by suffer you mean they didn't want you to challenge whatever the person in charge will put in place.
Yes. What I was trying to say is just simple, Mr. Evans. It's just simple. What do I mean? They were going to put a president in place, because since it's an election, right? And because it's an online election, it can easily be manipulated. Though it's having there is a kind of advantage to the online election, but one of the disadvantages is it can easily be manipulated. You just notice that somebody will just sit down in one place and you just put in the number of figures that you wanted to put. So they believe that they were going to institute a particular person to become the president. So that president, he was going to be loyal to them. And me, TK, I can never be loyal to anybody, because me, I used to stand on my own. Like the way that you are seeing me, I don't have that I have godfather somewhere, somebody's influencing me to do nonsense. No, I don't do that. But what gives me inspiration is that once I have one or two number of persons that can give me the support, we are ready to go. So at the process of the election, there is 24 hours before the election, I was going on opposed. So because they noticed that I was coming to suffer the person that they were going to put in place. So what were they trying to do? Let them bring out an opponent for me, so that if probably the opponent wins, the speaker is going to be loyal to them, the president is going to be loyal to them, and that makes the government. That was the reason why I told you external forces to try to exempt themselves from internal matters of the student union government. If you are not part of the government, just stay aside. Leave the people that God has given them the mandate to lead the students to do whatever they feel like doing rightly. So they challenged me just 24 hours. So there was no form of cultist threat. But along the line, when I won the election, because it interests you to know that I just won the election by only a vote, only a single vote. So I just narrowly escaped. So there was, as the process, there was no form of threat, because from the initial stage there was no opponent that was coming. The opponent just came out 24 hours to the election. But along the governments, there were several form of threats, to the point that me and my room that I rent cannot even sleep inside because of the threat. That is student union government. That is politics. That is unionism for you. As far as you are standing for the right thing, you have external forces that will try to see that they crush you down. But by the grace of God, God gave me success. I finished my tenure without any other issue. There was no harm from any cultists or any other. No, no, no.
That's beautiful. So I have these questions because a lot of times the issue of cultism is something that's not really spoken about. People rather not talk about it, but it's something that almost everyone experiences if you went to a government-owned institution.
Sure.
And so I'll go to the next question I want to ask. In my usual form, I like to tell stories. So I also help my audience have like a better view of where I'm going to. So I don't know if you're familiar with the Cultural Revolution that happened in China. It was led by the very charismatic Mao Zedong. And but the part of that very interesting event is the fact that at the middle of the Cultural Revolution, you had an organization called the Red Guard. The Red Guard was constituted or formed by students in secondary school, students in universities. And one can also argue that in the absence of the Red Guard, it's possible that the Cultural Revolution wouldn't have been a success. So my point is that you cannot remove the importance of students in any movement. They are very, very, very vital, as they have the gift of youth. They also have, in some ways, that relentless spirit and always want to churn out results. So aside China, even in Nigeria, you had important persons like Segun Okewo, Bambila too, who were important persons during the Ali Mosgo protest. And that movement, in fact, changed the entire landscape of Nigeria and ushered in a new set of gentlemen and ladies that shook the core of Nigeria. So it's not out of place to want to see, we've talked about this previously by the way, but it's not out of place for me to want to see young persons that would mirror the efforts of persons in the past. So this is not so much of a question, but to say that it's possible we can go back to the glory days, but concerted, deliberate effort would have to be put in place, and there must be a return to specific ideologies. Because of time, I would love for us to just go straight to you as a person back. What you'd like to see going forward in specific terms, the best approach to ensure that students in bodies return to the exact way they were.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Evans. Basically, about students should try to have courage,
Okay.
because they should not allow money to influence them.
That's difficult, but I hear
No. I know it's difficult, but actually we can actually do that. Yeah, if Adibinja is a little much time, I could have told you a little experience that I had when I was the speaker of the faculty, because there are so many monies coming in, so many monies going out, and it is expected that every money that is going out, you have your own percentage.
True.
Every money that is coming in, you have your own percentage. But I don't want to talk about that. So the students, they shouldn't allow money to influence them. Let them do whatever is right for them, is expected that they do. The fundamental reason why NANS was created is to stand in for students when necessary. both globally and both within the institution. Had it been the people like Ladipo Solanke, had it been the only student in that in UK, he could have not even gotten to Nigeria because it is the left government of the WASU that led to the government of NNP and other political, and other things like that. So the students should not allow money. It's not everything that money will give, but integrity is the best thing that you can ever retain.
Very true.
Yes. So I think by doing that, students should try to imbibe that.
I've had an amazing time with my dear friend, and he's done justice to some of the questions I asked. But this is just the beginning. We'll have subsequent episodes to shed more light on the history of unionism, not just at the University of Jos, other institutions. I hope we'll see some other time, and I would have other speakers, and we would dig deeper into the reasons for the rot at the University of Jos and student body and other institutions alike. But the ultimate goal really is to have young persons talk about genuine issues and not just talk about them, also find a way to solve those problems. It's been lovely having you guys. I hope you see some other time. Stay blessed.